Hey guys, the time is here. Before I go over my top 10 best of the year list and my top 5 worst of the year list for 2017, as I've done in previous years, I make something called a number 11 list. These are films that didn't quite make the top 10 that I happened to really enjoy over the course of last year. These are films that I've liked in one way, shape, or form, have been considered for my top 10 lists. Didn't quite make it as far as, going over my top 10, finalizing it, and realizing the 10 films I like the best of the year. These are films that I happen to really, really enjoy that didn't quite make the list, whether they were considered or not considered. They were just films I really enjoyed throughout the year. These are just films I'm going to quickly go over before pursuing a top 10 list of my top 5 worst of the year list. Didn't quite see enough bad films to make a top 10 worst of the year list. That's why that's a top 5 list. But let's go over this list here. These are films that I happened to really enjoy over the course of 2017 that didn't quite make my top 10 best of the year. But like I said, these are films that I really, really enjoyed. Some of these I might even bring up every here and there if they were strongly considered for the top 10 list or not. But let's go over some of these films. They are very good. I highly recommend seeing these films, but they're not quite good enough to make my top 10 list. So the first film on this list is the Lego Batman movie. Really enjoyed this film. Very, very fun. A fun continuation of the Lego movie while also going down its own path, making it more so about Lego Batman. Really enjoyed this film. Just not quite top 10 material. Colossal was another film I really liked. Anne Hathaway, she can control this giant monster. There's this whole thing about something else going on while she's controlling a giant monster and somebody can do something else. Very fun film. I remember having a lot of problems with it though. I knew kind of from the beginning it probably wasn't going to make my top 10 best of the year list, but I happen to really enjoy it. I do recommend Colossal. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This might appear on some people's top 10 list, and unfortunately didn't appear on mine. I really enjoy this film. It's a fun sequel to the first Guardians of the Galaxy, but because it is weaker in quality than the first film, didn't quite make my top 10 list. I think Marvel has made better films than this one, so really enjoyed that film, just not a top 10 movie. Kong Skull Island is another film I really liked. I was kind of hoping at the beginning of the year of 2017 that this would make my top 10 best of the year since I loved Godzilla so much, and this film takes place in that same universe as that new Godzilla movie. Unfortunately, that was not the case. I really enjoyed Kong Skull Island. I did have some problems with it though. There's still things about it that still kind of bug me a little bit. It's not as rewatchable as I was hoping it would be. I haven't really gone back to it too much, but I do really enjoy this movie. It just wasn't a top 10 movie. This film actually appeared on some top 10 worst of the year list, and I'm a little shocked. I think it is a good movie, but I certainly would not consider it for my top 10 best of the year. I really didn't think it was that great. And that's the film The Circle with Tom Hanks and Emma Watson. Definitely a unique film that says a lot of unique things about technology and about how privacy is really important to people and how you should allow people to have their privacy and so forth. I really enjoyed The Circle. It's just not quite a top 10 best of the year kind of movie. Alien Covenant is a film I almost didn't even put on the number 11 list, but I did enjoy it. Ridley Scott has made much better films than this one. It was nice to see a continuation to Prometheus. Even Prometheus is a film that I enjoy, but I'm not like completely in love with it. So just a fun little alien film that came out over the summer that I happen to like. It just wasn't an amazing movie. So Alien Covenant is on this list as well. Baby Driver is another film that I really, really enjoy. I like what Edgar Wright does as a director. There's things about Baby Driver I'm still not completely happy with. I thought the ending was very sloppy for the most part. There's just certain things about it I thought were kind of annoying. I thought Jamie Foxx's character kind of got on my nerves after a while, to be honest. Obviously, the whole thing with Kevin Spacey going on kind of ruined it for a lot of people. I really enjoy this movie. I think it has some fun moments in it. It's just not quite a grand spectacular film like some of Edgar Wright's previous films have been, but I happen to really enjoy what it was, and I enjoyed Ansel Elgort and Lily James and all the really better performers of the movie and so forth, but just not quite a top 10 material movie. War for the Planet of the Apes is another film I happen to really like. It just didn't quite make my top 10 list. I do think, for me personally anyway, I did think Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes were better ape films. I happen to really enjoy this film. I had more problems with it than those previous two films. I did enjoy it overall, just not a top 10 movie for me. This next one I knew was not going to make my top 10 list, but I thought it was a very well made film. It's not a very uplifting movie than this film I'm about to talk about here. Um, but I think it is a really well made film from director Catherine Bigelow, and that's the film Detroit. Really well made movie, definitely very anger inducing in certain parts. There's certainly moments in it that are not going to make everybody happy in it. Thought it was well acted, well made, a great enough movie for me to recommend on this number 11 list. The next one, I actually almost made my top 10 list until I'd say closer to the end of the year, and I saw, like, Lady Bird and all those films that really were kind of the films that really struck me hard. But that was Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tales. Thought it was a really fun Pirates of the Caribbean film. Not a spectacular movie, but I certainly think there were certain things about it that were really, really good that I really enjoy. So if you like Pirates of the Caribbean, if you liked any of the previous installments, I think you'll have fun with this one. If you really were not big on any of the sequels, you can probably skip that one. But for me personally, because I like Pirates of the Caribbean so much, and because this new installment was so fun, I thought it was a great film, and I do recommend seeing it. Going in style, the remake of an older film of the same name also came out in 2017 as a remake. Really enjoyed this movie. Fun movie. There's some problems with it, of course. I think it's really fun. Obviously, the celebrities they gathered for it, like Morgan Freeman, Alan Arkin, and so forth, Michael Caine, all did a great job. They all seem to have a ton of fun with this movie, which is definitely the film that I would like to see for a film going for something like that. So, a ton of fun to watch. It just wasn't a top 10 material kind of movie. Professor Marsden and the Wonder Woman was also very, very good. Just not quite a top 10 material movie. I thought there was great things about it. There was some startling things about it. There were certain things about this man's life and about his wife's life that were very intriguing and interesting to learn. I just thought it was not quite a top 10 material movie. I thought there were some problems with it, but it is very good. I do recommend seeing it. This next film, a lot of people really didn't like, but I personally liked it. As a Stephen King fan, I really, really enjoyed it. It's just not quite a top 10 movie, and that's The Dark Tower. I rewatched it since I saw it in theaters. I think it's good. There's certain things about it I certainly didn't love. There's certainly things about it that I don't think will get any sequels made for this movie. I don't think it'll get the TV series spinoff as once promised, but I think as far as a self-contained one story movie, it works fine. There's just certain things about it that aren't going to demand any sequels per se, and I think that's the biggest problem with it is you'll like what you'll see, but you won't demand more. And I think that's something the Dark Tower was hoping to be, was to be like this next franchise quality movie. And I don't think it's going to become that over time. I personally enjoyed this movie as a Stephen King fan. There was a lot of Stephen King isms I was happy with in it. It's probably not going to get the franchise as promised, but I enjoyed it for what it was. The next film on this list was Justice League. Really enjoyed this movie. I knew the second I left the theater it was not going to make my top 10 list. I think there's certainly enjoyable things about it. It's great to see once again Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I really enjoy Henry Cavill as Superman. I think he's a very good Superman. It's an enjoyable movie. Joss Whedon made hit and miss decisions with it. He took over for Zack Snyder when his daughter passed away. But it's just not a top 10 material movie. There's just nothing really about it that is going to make me immediately want to watch it again. So I guess that's my biggest complaint with it is there's nothing immediate about it that makes me immediately want to watch it again. So I do enjoy it though. The next film on my list I happen to really enjoy. For the longest time it was on my top 10 list, but it didn't quite make it. And that's Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. A really fun animated film that unfortunately didn't get nominated for Best Animated Feature for the Oscars. I really enjoy it though. I think it's funny and fun. The idea is somewhat original. It's not completely original though. I like this. I like the concept they went with for it. It was just a fun movie. It was so aware of its ridiculousness that you couldn't help but love it. I thought it was a funny time at the theater, so I really enjoyed Captain Underpants. The next film almost made it to my top 10 list, but it didn't quite make it. There was 10 other films I happened to like better, but that film happened to be Blade Runner 2049. Really enjoyed this film. It's great to see Harrison Ford back in the signature role after so many years of not playing Rick Deckard. It was great to be back in that Blade Runner universe. I personally think it's a better film than the first Blade Runner. I think it's just more enjoyable to watch. I enjoyed Ryan Gosling's character in this movie. The visuals were great. Denis Villeneuve did a great job directing this movie. there's just something about it that didn't quite scream top 10 material to me. Maybe it's just the pacing, maybe it's just the problems I had with it, but I enjoyed it overall. I recommend seeing Blade Runner 2049. This next one was on my list for the longest time. It almost made my top 10 list. But then as we reached the end of the year and really, really good films started to come out, it kind of got knocked off the list. And that happened to be the remake of Beauty and the Beast, the live action remake of the classic movie. Really enjoyed Beauty and the Beast. I loved Emma Watson as Belle. I love the look of this film, the visuals. They really remade Beauty and the Beast in all the right ways. They explored things that the first animated Beauty and the Beast didn't quite explore. And they explored it in just the right way. They didn't make anything confusing to me or anything like that. Really enjoyed the movie. It just barely missed that top 10 list. The Greatest Showman is a film I happen to really enjoy. The musical scores are great in it. The songs are great. They kind of fluff over P.T. Barnum's life a little bit more than I would have liked. I would have liked to see more real, darker moments from P.T. Barnum's life depicted on film. They unfortunately don't explore that too much. They only explore the happier sides of his life. So I enjoyed this movie. It had great performances, a great musical score. There's tons of things to like about it. I just would have liked to have seen a little more of the darker moments in Barnum's life brought to the big screen. They just kind of ignored him for this movie. Really enjoyed The Greatest Showman. It needed to go in darker directions when the plot was really asking for it, and they just never go that direction. Thor Ragnarok is a film that almost made my top 10 list again. Didn't quite make it, but I happen to really enjoy it. I like the sense of humor. I liked what Taika Waititi, I think his name is, did with the humor of this movie, the story of this movie, how he kind of tied it all in, how he brought Doctor Strange in, how he brought all these other Marvel elements in, still made his own self-contained movie while also concluding a Thor trilogy. There's just a lot of things to really enjoy about Thor Ragnarok. It just didn't quite make my top 10 list. And then I just recently reviewed this film, and this is Phantom Thread by Paul Thomas Anderson. Really enjoyed this film. Not Paul Thomas Anderson's best film, but something that's really enjoyable on his resume, something that's very good for what probably might be Daniel Day-Lewis's last role. If it is his last role, it's a very enjoyable role for him. Just not quite a top 10 list kind of movie. So that's my number 11 list, guys. If a film didn't make this list, don't worry, it might make my top 10 list. And if there's a really bad film that didn't make this list, well, we're saving that for my top 5 worst of the year list. So be sure to stick around for those. This is my number 11 list. Like I said, if you didn't see a film on here, either I didn't see it, or I might be saving it for my top 10 best of the year or top 5 worst of the year, depending on what film it is and what kind of quality that film is. So stick around for those. Those videos will arrive very soon as well.